Welcome, we're self-sufficient smallholders and we grow a lot of our own food. Last year we planted this bed with these fantastic root vegetables, parsnips, because we absolutely love them, but we haven't eaten as much as we expected. So what we're going to do now is clear this bed completely, and today I'm going to show you two techniques that we use to preserve these fantastic root vegetables. Welcome to English Country Life. My name's Fiona and this is Hugh, my husband, who's doing all of the work while I'm talking to you. On the small holding we grow these wonderful parsnips, and this is a variety called Tender and True. It's incredibly reliable and we've grown it for years. In this bed we're trying to dig everything out at the moment because from tomorrow we've got a cold snap coming. We're going to have snow and the ground is going to be completely frozen. Now we've left these to quite a late date and we've harvested everything else in the garden, because the great thing about parsnips is you can leave them in the ground for a long time, but if you leave them into the spring of the following year they do go woody. So now is the time, and we're in late winter, for us to dig these out. And when we've got them out, I'm going to do two things today. One is to blanch and freeze them, and the second thing is to make a fantastic smooth curried parsnip soup. I will freeze and I will pressure can some of it, and if you're interested in pressure canning, there's a link above to an introduction to pressure canning. But for today we're going to get on and dig these out. There will be a subsequent video on parsnip wine, and no, don't switch off, don't judge. Honestly, it's wonderful. It's like a fantastic oaked Chardonnay, but it takes a few weeks for it to ferment, so bear with us and we'll publish that video very soon. Before we can do anything, we need to get the parsnips out of the ground, and that takes some hard work, but at least it's a joint effort. The parsnips are very muddy, so we tend to remove as much of the mud as possible before they're taken into the house. We were given these plastic crates some time back. They are slightly damaged, so we're going to be thrown away, but we have a use for them, and these are perfect to hose off as much mud as possible. The crates have holes in them as they were used to hold vegetables which need some air circulation. It's perfect for this task as the mud and water end up in the wheelbarrow with the clean parsnips in the crate. When we're finished, the mud and water can simply be poured off into the flower beds. Just one day later, the snow has come down, the ground is frozen. I'm glad we did all of that work yesterday to dig the parsnips out. I'm going to head back into the house, into the warm, and get to work. Most of the mud has been removed by hosing the parsnips outside, but there's still a little bit of soil on them. I'll remove that in the kitchen sink by scrubbing them with a nail brush. Most people will choose to peel the parsnips, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, but for myself I prefer to leave a layer of skin on, so scrubbing them with the nail brush is the best option for me. Now that I've washed all of the parsnips, I've got a giant stock pot full of them, but I've still got some processing to do. For all of the parsnips, I need to top and tail them. So that's take this section off here where the stem meets the root itself, and that's topping it. And then I'm going to take the tail off. Now normally if I was blanching and freezing parsnips, I'd be taking the tail off to about this point here, because there's only that section which is worth freezing. But in this case, because I'm making curried parsnip soup, I'm going to keep that section to about there, because that is going to be really useful for the curried parsnip soup. That bit is going to go into the compost bin because it's not really of any use to me, and it'll rot down and make great compost for next year. But for now, I need to get on and process all of these parsnips. I've set up two bowls, so the bowl on the right can be used for the larger sections for blanching and freezing, and the bowl on the left can be used for the smaller sections for the curried parsnip soup. I've prepared the parsnips and I'm going to run you through the ingredients that we're going to need for this recipe. I've got extra virgin olive oil and we're going to need 2 tablespoons of this. We're going to need 5 medium onions which need to be chopped up, 2 large chilies, and these are our own Onivec chilies which we've grown here in the summer, and they were frozen and I've got them out the freezer and they're now beautifully defrosted for this recipe. I'm going to add 6 cloves of garlic, 300 grams of potatoes, 600 grams of parsnips, 2 tablespoons of curry powder, and 2.4 litres of chicken stock, but you could use vegetable stock if you prefer. I've also got out my little pot of our own chili powder because for most of you, you won't need it, but I like soup very spicy. So once I've made it up with the standard ingredient, I'll start adding little bits of this till I get it to the spiciness level that I like. The first ingredient that I need are the onions, so I'm going to top and tail them, then I'm going to cut them in half, and that's going to make it easy for me to peel away the brown layer of dead skin on the outside of the onion. Lay the onion on its flat side and then slice. I'm taking my time here because I'm notorious for having little accidents with knives on my fingers. Once I've got those slices, I'm going to turn the onion around, slice in the opposite direction, and that's going to give me some lovely little cubes of onion for frying off in the stock pot. Next, I'm going to prepare the chilies, and I'm going to top and tail those too and discard those pieces. Then I'm going to chop them into rough chunks. And don't worry too much about the size of the chunks at this stage, because once the soup has been boiled down and all that flavour is in the soup, we're going to use a stick blender to get a lovely smooth texture. We also need the garlic cloves, so pop each clove on a hard surface and press down hard with the flat side of a knife. That slightly crushes them and makes it very easy to peel away that hard layer on the outside of the clove. Once we've done that, we can roughly chop them and add it to the initial ingredients that need to go into the stock pot. Now we can start cooking. So turn the heat on and add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to the bottom of the stock pan. Once that's done, you can start adding those first 3 ingredients. So that's the onion, the chili, and the garlic. While those ingredients are frying off, the potatoes can be prepared, and each potato needs to be peeled. The potatoes need to be cubed, so once again I'm going to chop them in exactly the same way as the onions. So I'm going to chop them in half, lay them on their flat surface, cut in one direction and then the other. These are fairly hefty chunks, and once again later on in the recipe, once these ingredients have been softened off, we are going to use a stick blender, so I'm not going to worry too much about the size of these chunks. I do keep stirring the ingredients in the stock pot just to make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom and nothing burns. Once the ingredients have been fried off for roughly 3 minutes and they're a lovely golden colour, I'm going to add the curry powder, and I'm going to stir that just for about 30 seconds to release those lovely flavours. Now it's time to add the chicken stock to the mixture. Add the parsnips and the potatoes, and I'm going to give it a good stir before putting the lid on, turning the temperature up and bringing the mixture to the boil. The curried parsnip soup is simmering away, and it's going to be about 20 minutes before I can put a liquidizer in and break all those lumps of potato and parsnips down so it's a lovely creamy smooth soup. I'm going to take advantage of that time. I've got a big stock pot at the back here filled with hot water, and I'm just about to bring that to the boil, and that's so I can do the other task I had planned for today, which is to preserve the remaining parsnips by blanching them and then freezing them. Blanching parsnips is easy. I'm going to add them to the boiling water, pop the lid back on and set a timer for 2 minutes. When the time is up, I'm going to pour all of the water out with the parsnips into a clean kitchen sink. I'm then going to run cold water over them and fill the sink up until all of that heat comes out of the parsnips. Once cool, the parsnips need to be drained, and what I normally do is lift them out and put them into a bowl with some kitchen towel so that they can be patted dry. We freeze our parsnips in portion sizes, and for 2 of us that would mean roughly about 250 grams in each bag. We choose to vacuum pack them because it means that they don't get frostburn in the freezer and we can keep them for far longer. Using the vacuum sealer is very straightforward. All we have to do is get the parsnips in the packet, pop it into the tray, press the button, it pulls all of the air out of the bag, seals it, and then it's ready to go into the freezer. The soup's been simmering away for a good 20 minutes and the parsnips and the potatoes are beautifully tender. So now's the time for me to turn this into a lovely creamy soup. And I'm simply going to do that with the stick blender. After an afternoon of cooking, I've got 2.4 litres of curried parsnip soup. It's spicy and it's also surprisingly sweet. I've also got 8 portions of blanched parsnips which are going to go in the freezer, and these will come out with our roast dinners over the next few weeks. If you have liked this content, take a moment and give us a thumbs up below. If you're not already a subscriber, come and join us. We cover everything we do here on the Smallholding. We cover growing, making, and of course, some of those chickens. If you've got a question for me, or if there's a video you'd like us to make that you haven't seen yet, leave it in the comment section and we'll do our best to get back to you or even make that video for you. But for now, thanks for watching and we look forward to seeing you next time.